All right, so I've been working on this thing, and it's called Blaze, or BLZ for short. And I built this because I was noticing when I was working with my coding agents that they were constantly looking up documentation, just like humans would. You're working on a project, you need to find the docs for a particular dependency or SDK or whatever it is that you're working with. And when they were doing it, they were searching kind of like humans. Do a web search, whatever, read the docs, get it in, start using that new knowledge to build stuff. And there are some, say, like MCP servers that make that a little bit easier. Context 7 is awesome, Firecrawl, DeepWiki, all of these. But what I was noticing was that when they go to do those queries, man, they come back with just like tons and tons and tons of context. And sometimes that would kind of eat away at the context window available to the agent. And in doing that, they were eating up all of that necessary context that would be available to actually do the work, to do the coding. And it seemed weird to me that they would just search exactly the same way that we do as humans. And I was like, is there maybe another route that they could take, and what could we do for that? I built this tool called Blaze. It's a CLI tool. It's based in Rust, and it's really, really fast, like super crazy fast. And the idea is that we're going to take these documents, llms.txt documents, which these tools will publish. Specifically, we're using this version called llms-full.txt. It just looks like this, llms-full.txt. Looks like that. And that actually is like a mirror of the entire documentation available on that website. It's pretty amazing. The problem is that these things will be insanely big files, like 200,000, 300,000 tokens, which when you're working with a coding agent would literally eat up the entire context window. So it's not possible for an agent to just read through all these things. But could they read through it in a more effective way? Would there be a way to do that? So I built Blaze with agents with that in mind. Load in llm's full.txt files and then parse them. So go through the documentation, find the headings, pull out all the stuff, put them in kind of a structured format, index it all, keep it on the hard drive so that all the things are happening locally. You're not constantly doing web fetches for stuff, and it's all happening ridiculously fast. And then have the agents use that tool for that documentation instead. And what started as like a little tiny experiment actually worked, so much so that I thought that the agents were faking it when I was running it. So I want to show you how Blaze works, what it's all about, and I'm going to do so in a way that's kind of like through the lens of an agent actually using it, which would be the common use case. So here's what I have set up. I have a shell here, and I'm going to have an agent fire up Blaze to start using it. Now, I'm just in a random folder. It's for my Outfitter project. And so it doesn't necessarily have the context of what Blaze is ahead of time. So this is kind of going in fresh and clean. Let's pull up the little prompt that I'm going to throw in there. So in the meantime, I'm going to launch Claude Code, and I'm going to bring up that prompt. So here's what it says. I want to have you help me with something. You're going to be, building something. You have access to Blaze, and here's what it is. And I want you to use Blaze as your primary search tool, for example. So that's all it's going to say. So we're going to copy this on in, and we're going to see what happens. So here we are copying it in, and we're going to hit paste, and it's going to get off to the races. So we're going to watch it in real time for the moment, just to kind of see what it's doing. So Blaze brings the documentation in, parses it, indexes it, all that stuff right on your hard drive, and then it's available to be searched through. So here's what it says. I understand you want me to thoroughly test and evaluate Blaze. That's all great. Okay, put it to use. Awesome, ready to dig in. Fantastic. So let's take the next big chunk of things. So I'm asking it to figure out how it works, to go ahead and run this little command called BLZ prompt, which is kind of like a help, but specifically designed for agents to be able to get caught up on things. So We're going to get that copied and pasted on in and see what it does. Yep, prompt was something I thought, okay, we have the help flag for people, but can it really give guidance, like sequenced guidance for what agents can and should do? Not really, or at least not without kind of intermixing that with how humans might want to actually retrieve that back. So not great. So here we go. It's already kicking through. Oh, this is kind of hilarious because my next prompt, read this. Let's read this. Okay, so it knows how to add things. That's great. The prompt did its job. It knows how to search for things. It knows how to get the context. I'll explain what this CL is when it gets further. It knows how to format things. Yeah, I mean, it really does know how to do all the things that it should do. So in theory, it should actually work really well. So this is what's hilarious, where it says here that it already added effect, the TypeScript library. Check that out, 50,000 lines, right? Indexed it really quickly. Fantastic. Turns out that already did this thing that I wanted it to do. Okay, actually, yeah, I did ask it to do that. Great. So now here's the scenario. Let's get that and paste it on back in. I'm giving it a scenario. I'm basically saying, okay, you're going to use this for real now. Here's what I want you to kind of look for and see if that goes right. Actually, the funny thing is, and I'm going to throw this out there, but actually, because of that prompt, it kind of already caught up and knew all the different things it needed to do. So here, I'm going to explain what it's doing in the process. So we see it's searching, Blaze search, and here's what this is. And then you're seeing source effect. So it's looking specifically at effect. And then it's getting context all. So what that means is it's looking for logger configuration log levels. And then it's finding that in the effect document. And then context all is actually taking that heading or chunk or wherever it found that text and then expanding it to that whole section that it found it in. So in a markdown document where you have a header, you might have another header later. We're going to consider that to be sort of a chunk or like a block of text. And context all will take that little snippet that it found, got the hit. Now it's going to go brant and expand it back open. Okay, actually that happened really fast. So one of the things that I noticed before it finished the query is that it had only grabbed about 4,000 tokens worth of context yet. That's tiny. And here's why. When you use things like Context 7, which is awesome, and I use it all the time, and all these other tools, you're actually getting the full context of the document back. So that might be 25,000 lines sometimes, or sorry, 25,000 tokens, tons of lines. It's able to kind of like search for that needle in a needle stack, which is insane. So let's see what its result was. All right. Here's what it found. Okay, so it already found the specific things that I was asking about, the very specific queries that it needed to do. Really awesome. Found the bun specific bits that it needed to find. And here's the honest feedback. So context all, chef's kiss, very nice. Full sections in one shot, no multi-step fetching. Line number ref, so it knows exactly where that citation or reference is in the LLMS full TXT document, which that effect one was 50,000 lines. And then it was able to parse through all of that really easily. JSON output's clean, structured exactly how it wants it. Parallel searches blazing fast, 15 to 21 milliseconds each. When I use this tool, it's kind of crazy as a human because it happens so quickly. Like I said, I thought it was hallucinated. I thought it was fake the first time that I tried it out. Actually, that'd be a good time for me to try and show you what it's like to use. So let's just do real quick. I'm going to do a search for Blaze BLZ. That's the call. I'm going to type in package manager. Oh yeah. Okay. So I've already done this one before, but let's just see what it's like. Okay. So I hit enter, and before I hit enter, it was shown. Check this out. It took 6 milliseconds. I only got 30 searches back, or 30 results back, as I said, limit 10. It searched over 43,000 lines. And of course, I can advance, just go to the next page and all that if I want to, but let's have a look at what it found. Yeah, so up here at the top, we're seeing, it took the bun file, the llms.txt, and then it broke it down. So we're seeing bunfig.toml, that's a section, and then package manager was a section, and then this is the text that it found inside of that. So we're seeing a little snippet, and it found that right here. And this little ranking here would be like when these things are indexed and your search is applied. It's also figuring out how likely it is to hit what it is that you're looking for. So it's giving it a score, if you will. So here we have those 10. If we were to try to just search BLZ package manager and not include any source, meaning for all of the things, actually, let's just see what's in there right now. BLZ list. I'm going to type in status just to see. So we have bun is in there. The AI SDK is in there. Effect, like the agent added. Cloudflare, factory, all these, they're all in there. But like, this is pretty crazy. Cloudflare, 43,000 lines, 1,700 headings, effect bigger somehow. That's kind of nuts. And then bun, 43,000 lines. That's cool. So now if I were to go back up here, and this time I'm actually going to take out the source bun, which means it's going to search everything. Let's see what happens. Okay. 144 results shown. That's cool. 200,000 lines searched over 6 sources, and it took 12 milliseconds. So this thing is insanely fast. I like that. Now, minor observations would be nice to see related sections. Here, let's close this one out for now and see also. Totally agree. Love to see that. And it says, not sure if there's a way to search multiple sources at once versus sequential calls. This isn't in my little script that I have here, but hey, why don't we do this? Why don't we go off script for a second and say, actually, well, I don't know why I'm typing. I can just talk. Yes, you can search over multiple sources. Just don't include the source flag and give that a shot. Maybe try, I don't know, any kind of other searches or queries that you might in the course of just active development, and see what kinds of things you can find. Try to use the like pagination maybe, and try to just get as much context as you want, especially where things might cross that boundary of documentation sources. You might want to do a list first, a BLZ list, so that you can see what sources are available, and then maybe come up with something that would maybe hit in the different lists, and then do those without the source flag and see what it comes back with. Cool. Yeah, I use Aqua Voice for that. It's pretty awesome. So now we're going to watch it intently while it is doing this query. That way we can kind of explain what's going on. So here it's going to try and knock out these multiple sources. So, all right, it did the list. It figured out what sources are available. Great. Now it is going to probably just start hitting it. Yep. Boom, boom, boom. Tons of searches. Awesome. 12 milliseconds, 9 milliseconds, 9. That's pretty cool. So it's limiting. I didn't tell it to limit by 10, but it's definitely trying that. All right. Multi-source pagination is beautifully. Okay, great. Now it's going to different pages. It's checking out different limit sizes. It's going to sort of jump through different things. Right now, we're only sitting at 2,000 tokens used, which is tiny. All right, brilliant. Multi-search work. Okay, awesome. And now it's going further. It's just going to keep going. We're getting a context all in this case now, limit 8. We're only at 2.7 thousand tokens. Now that one took a little bit longer. That's interesting. Probably because it was grabbing the all context, but still we're sitting at 61 milliseconds, which for most people in most use cases is still just insanely fast. So that's really cool to see. All right, and we're gonna wait here till it's done. Now, you can add in your own sources. You can load up individual text files if you want. There is a flag for that. I'm working on a registry because honestly, just knowing where to find these sources and put them in kind of sucks. I do have an agent prompt for how to find them reliably and add them. Okay, great. So let's see here. It thinks all this stuff is great. Performance, 200,000 lines searched in 9 to 61 milliseconds. That's stupid fast. I agree. That's great to see. Now, it did like that it could grab from multiple different sources at once. So that's pretty cool. The ranking, it says, is spot on. Top results are genuinely the most relevant, even when keywords have different meanings across sources. So that's cool to see. Now, where it says it wants related sections, yeah, that would be pretty cool. It'd be nice if I could get that feature in there. Cross references, oh, I see. It wants to be able to see the context from one and then hop to another source. Fully agree. And sometimes it wants more context without full. Actually, that's kind of funny because that tells me that's not in the prompt. So it does already work like that. I should let it know that. It also wants for the environment variable to be sticky. And all of those things are actually in there too. So is, I don't know about stats, but I definitely know the diff is in there. It may not be exactly what that command is. So first I'm going to let it know, actually, we have context number does work, and you can use cnum as well. And the n variable is there too. So let's see what it thinks about that. And then while we're waiting for that to run through its stuff, oh, I love this. One search, three approaches, all cited. That's workflow gold. Very cool. Let's go ahead and grab this last bit. Actually, I just want this. What it's saying is I want you to compare using local llms.txt search versus a generic doc search over the web or using an MCP server. Think about those differences and what they would have entailed, and then tell me. And I'm saying BLZ, faster, more precise. I'm going to say Blaze because that's the short way of saying it. Areas that might have still wanted to use web search or MCP servers. Fallback. What did having a local copy make easier, better, whatever? And to finish things off, I want you to share some blunt feedback. So let's do that. Okay, cool. This is brilliant. Okay, so clearly I have to work on the dash prompt, that flag, because it wasn't aware that it could use those things. It already worked that way, but it didn't know about it yet. So I've got to work on that. Environment variable worked great. Brilliant UX. Tune my context style based on whether I'm skimming or deep diving. Honest take, BLZ has everything I need. Amazing. Features I thought were missing are actually already implemented. My only wish list items are now truly optional. Cross-reference. Okay, yeah, fully agree. Killer combo. And this is for an agent. It's setting the environment variable to JSON because it wants it back in that format. And then it really just was doing searches and then adding some context. So it preferred, in this case, the context 5, which means wherever the hit was, it's going to go 5 lines up, 5 lines down and get exactly that. I've seen different feedback from different agents say they like the context all, different stuff like that. So here, I'm going to pass it this last little prompt and see what it says. And then we're going to check and see what the entire, say, context consumption might have been for this session so far. All right, so it's going. It's giving me a handful of tokens. That is probably just whatever its response is going to be. And then, so none of this is using Blaze yet. And then we're going to watch it as it uses the tool, going through all of those different searches and see what it says. Actually, maybe it's not even going to run the tool anymore. Maybe it already is just giving me its opinion. And, I do want to also mention that this is definitely very much not done. This is still kind of something that I would consider an experiment. It's something that is an experiment that worked. I'm actively using it in my agentic workflows right now. And it's really cool to see. It's also hilarious because the agents will come back on their own, unprompted, and just give me feedback that this thing is fun to use or interesting or fast or whatever, which is really pretty cool. Okay, so let's see here. Speed and precision wins. Okay, search speed, really fast, could take a while for web search and parsing. Okay, got it. Index speed, 200,000 lines in 10 milliseconds. Could iterate queries without thinking. So it's just hammering it because it can. Line level refs versus page level URLs that it would have to kind of search and find through. Granted, an agent's not necessarily going to do it that way, but if they're getting a whole page back, it's obviously constraining their context. And then the cross-source ranking, what it's saying right here, what it means by that is that when you're doing a cross-source search, it's pulling a bunch of stuff in, and it'll still rank those things even though you're getting a bunch of different sources in at once. And then, there's no rate limit. It ran 20 searches in the session, hammered through. Okay, good to go. All right, where I'd want feedback. Breaking changes not yet in llms.txt. If effect 4.0 dropped yesterday, BLZ wouldn't have it until next update. That's correct. But if you were to just say BLZ update effect, so long as effect actually published their llms.txt, it would grab it and it would cache the old version, put the new one in there. It would have a diff report, so you'd know exactly what it was that had changed between those things. So Blaze not only can sort of do the downloading, the caching, the indexing, all that fancy stuff, it will also intelligently be able to update those documents accordingly as well, which is cool. It would love to see GitHub issues, Discord discussions, all that. Yeah, I agree. That's going to be where I'm going to draw a line and say, nah, we can't add that in, because this is all about the documentation things that are already available. And you know what? That's where MCP servers and stuff like that, they can continue to have it. This is not meant to be a do everything tool. It's meant to do its job really well. And I think having it in your toolkit can help alongside those other tools. So then what the local copy enabled, refined queries 5 to 6 times on retry without thinking about costs. So in that case, it's like, okay, that query didn't work all that well. It's going to run another one. It doesn't take much context to do, takes no time at all. And so it's able to just kind of hammer it however it needs to, which works really well from an agent's perspective. Would work well on a plain offline. Yes, it's all offline, which is awesome. In that case, though, obviously, if you're working with agents and they need to make those calls, if you're in a constrained bandwidth environment, it's kind of nice to be able to hit these things from your local machine because it's faster and it doesn't have to download a bunch of stuff and it doesn't have to make a ton of calls outside. Still have to call the LLM unless you're using a local or offline model, but it does work pretty well. And then let's see here, deterministic results. It likes that the same query gets back the same results every time. No surprises. Yes, agreed. So it likes the things that worked well. Great. Paper cuts, feature discovery. Yes. It had assumed it didn't exist because the prompt didn't make them obvious. I'll fix that. Great. Result scanning in JSON. As a human, I'd love format table. Table could work, but you can run it with just text, format text, or just don't include it at all, because then it will return back in a human format. Did you mean? Yes, agreed. I would love to have a did you mean in there. Feature requests. So we kind of already know. I think that BLZ history does already work that way. Okay. Diff would be nice, and smart related searches. Yes. Okay, great. So this isn't in my prompt, but I'll just say, like, why don't you try using it more like a human and see what you think? In this case, you're just not going to include the JSON flag and get back these results. I would probably use the -help flag, which is different than the -prompt flag, and it's a little bit more oriented towards human guidance. You might discover some other things along the way. Maybe run through all the commands available, run help on all those, and then get a sense of how maybe a human might use this. All right, great. So all that went in there well. Looks like it kept my context in the prompt. Okay, here we go. We're just watching it run the help flag, and we're going to see how it goes. All right, great. Now it's searching. It checked out effect, retry schedule, 9 millisecond search. Cool. It changed the environment variables so that it doesn't have to keep typing anything, or it got it back in JSON first. That's why it changed the environment variable. Okay, great. Now it's just like blitzing through all these different commands to see what it is that they are going to do or should expect to output. Fun. It did doctor, looked up the source info. It hit something that I'm still working on, which is the lookup. The idea is that the lookup will help the adding of these sources. I don't think it's a fully complete feature yet. So it's something I want to get in there, but it's not completely done just yet. But it went ahead and did a get. So it looked for a specific line or section of lines, I should say, in the effect doc. That's cool. Oh, it hit an error. Looks like you can't combine search without a search that's already happened. So I suppose it'll tell me what worked. Okay, in this case, we can see that it had done a get on the bun documentation with a context of 2 and it formatted in text, you can kind of see what the text back would have been like. It's showing you the lines and then what was appearing on those lines, which is cool. Here it's running a validation on the bun source, and that's just that there is a check for that the checksum that we have in there on adding it, that the source documentation still matches whatever was originally validated when it came in. That way it can know for sure that we're still working with the same document that was loaded in to begin with. It'd be pretty hard to kind of change that. Somebody would most likely need to be maliciously adding something different, but hey, that's what validation is for. I have a feeling that it's going to tell me what it thinks next, but so far we're sitting at only 4,000 tokens used, which is awesome. All right, here's what we're seeing. Major discoveries. Text format is production ready. Beautiful. Cool. I like it. Navigation is smoother than expected. Cool. Next, previous, and last work at the root level. No search needed. So the history tracks everything based on timestamps. So whatever you run, it's going to keep working if you're running through pagination. So next, just keep going. The get command, citation to retrieval bridge. So we see get effect, context 5, workflow loop, search, cite, retrieve, iterate. Yep, agreed. Query syntax, powerful. So in this case, you can do ands and ors and exact phrase and all that, or combine, which can be really useful. And then we have stats, we have doctor, validate, update all, so that refreshes all the documents that you have loaded up as sources. Okay, things that worked well, format text, default for TTY is smart, visual hierarchy, smart truncation, and helpful tips. Very cool. I like it. Paper cuts, default output format confusion, and because, okay, it's environment variable stuff, probably don't need to worry about that too much. BLZ config show to see active settings. That's a good idea. I like that. Visual indicator of what's cached. It would need to run the stats on that to know that, but that's in there too. React docs return to 404, no JSON. Yeah. So the registry lookup definitely has to be improved. That's not complete yet. Search history replay with selection. That would be cool. Agree. All right. I think it did a pretty good job. BLZ is the documentation crap I always wanted. But did you really? You're an agent? Okay. Local fast, cross-source, line level citations, 0 rate limits, making it feel like having an experts curated knowledge base on my machine. I love that. I love that tagline. I might steal it. Cool. So that's how the tool works. Just so that we can get a live demo and sort of see what this looks like in practice. I'm just going to fire this up. So, we did already run through, one source. So if I were to say, let's just look up BLZ, I don't know, TOML, and we're going to go source bun, and we're going to limit to 10 and just kind of see. Okay, so that took 6 milliseconds. We got, let's see here, 10 of 30 results shown. Okay, let's go back up to that top one. I like that. Okay, import a TOML file. I have found that when I've been using Bun lately, I've wanted to use their default tools more and more and more, which is really awesome. Bun is freaking cool. Shout out Bun. So if I were to say BLZ get, and then this, so there it is. So it's just getting me that particular line. Okay, so it's only that line. Now, if I were to say that, oops, we're gonna go up, and I'm gonna say C, let's get the 10 lines on either side. So there was the line in question, and now we see the other lines on either side. Or if I were to say this and context all, boom, there's the whole section. Starting with here, now we truncate this by default. So when we did that original search, we're not actually seeing that line above it. We're just seeing this one, which is cool. And there's the whole section. Works pretty well. I'm wondering, I haven't tested this yet, but if I were to say, let's go back up to this, which is the query that we ran earlier, and I wonder if this will still work. I'm going to say next. Still worked. So that was the next page in the results. Yeah, that's it. Rank 11 instead of 1 through 10. So very cool. That's BLZ. Still got a ways to work on it. Would love any and all feedback from everybody. It's available for install version 1.1. That's live now. Otherwise, it's built for agents. Humans can totally use it and get something out of it. Like I said, feedback is super welcome. I would love to hear how people have been using it or kinds of things they would like to see out of it. One thing I want to mention it still works really, really well when you're on a slower computer. I'm on a Mac Studio right now, and even with tons and tons of lines in it, on my MacBook Air, I have 80,000 lines across something like 16 sources, and queries are still happening, even complex ones, in under 50 milliseconds. So it's ridiculously fast. Yeah, that's Blaze. Hope you like it. Check it out. Give me some feedback. Ask your agents to give you some feedback. And that's it. More videos to come. Thanks.